Woo. I know the blood still works. Woo! Got a Good Friday praise. All right, let me cut that before I get overly excited. Listen, family, I'm glad to have y'all back with me. We're here. We're going to do 2 words. We're going to do word 3 and word 4 back to back. Again, grateful to have you all tuned in with us. Prayerfully, you've been enjoying this thus far. We're going to finish out strong here with our last few words from our Christ on the cross. Again, got to put that out there. I'm at home, as you can see, which means I still got some little ones that may dip and dodge. Prayerfully, they'll be on their best behavior. But just want to throw that out there. Also, let me say this while I got your attention. Don't forget, you've been doing a phenomenal job with our giving and our drive-up giving. So please, let's remain faithful to that. If you have the Givelify app, go ahead and make your donation via Givelify. If you have Cash App, you can do Cash App, $UVBC Toledo, and give that way. Or we will have our drive up or drive through giving. But I have great news. Our deacons and some of our deacons at the church installed a mailbox on the door of our church, so you can just drive through and drop your money in the box. Nobody has to be there. It'll go right into the sanctuary. Right into the church that is locked and secured, so you can just drop it in there, and you'll be good to go on that. There are some envelopes in the old mailbox, which is right on the side of the church building. You can go in that black mailbox, grab out an envelope, fill out the envelope, and then put it in the mail slot in the door. And we're talking about the back door closest to the house that is next to us, not closer to the street. So check the door that's closer to the house end of the church versus the street end of the church. So please, ma'am, please, sir, please send your gift or drop your gift off so that we can continue to do ministry at the United Vision Church. Enough of that. Let's get into this third word. Third word can be found in John chapter number 19. John chapter number 19. Let me see who all in here. I see Crystal, I see Tara, I see Julio, I see Mother Jessie. Thank y'all for being with us. John 19 verses 26 and 27. John 19, 26 and 27 says, "When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple standing by whom he loved, he said unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour, that disciple took her into his own home." Woman, behold thy son. Son, behold thy mother. For a few moments here, speak from the subject. I take full responsibility. I take full responsibility. Listen, for everything that happens in life, someone has to take responsibility for it. I don't care what it is, where it is. Someone is responsible for whatever goes on. At your house, the parent, the mother, the father has to take full responsibility for what goes on or in their house. At your job, your supervisor, your boss has to take full responsibility of what goes on there. He takes or she takes full responsibility of all of the staff members. And should something go awry, that responsibility falls back on the supervisor. Even at the church, at United Vision Baptist Church, 821 East Manhattan Boulevard, while we have a nice board of deacons, a nice board of trustees, we have an official board, all that's great, but there's one person who has to take full responsibility for what goes on at United Vision. And thanks be unto God, that happens to be me. The reality is, no matter where you are, what you're doing, where you're going, somebody has to be the responsible one. And the person has to be responsible has to ensure that things are done decently and in order, things are carried cared for properly. Things are taken care of the way that they should be at the house. The person who's responsible got to make sure the bills is paid on the job, to make sure that the payroll is done. At the church, I got to make sure that you're getting sound preaching and teaching and that all that stuff operates. That's what it means when somebody takes full responsibility. The job of holding responsibility is serious because it means that the success or the failure of a thing falls on you. Listen, it's a great day to be the pastor of United Vision when everything is going great because there's no issue, there's no pain, there's no struggle. But it's a tough day to have full responsibility at United Vision when things aren't going as well as they could. Listen, being the person that has full responsibility comes with a great deal of responsibility. It comes with a great deal of weight and a great deal of pressure. The truth of the matter is, I've had more pressure over the last 3 or 4 weeks with this COVID-19 thing as the pastor that I've probably had in all 3 years of being the pastor combined, because I understand the responsibility of United Vision rests upon me. And so that responsibility brings pressure. But I know I'm not by myself. You've made some decisions for your family. You've made some decisions in your life. You've made some decisions in regards to your job that took some weight, that put some weight on you, and that you felt the pressure of life. Responsibility brings weight. And so here we find ourselves at the third word at the cross of Jesus, and we see Jesus fulfilling his full responsibility to his mother and his favorite disciple. He says, "Woman, behold thy son. Son, behold thy mother." If you will, use with me your spiritual imagination as if you are Jesus and you're hanging on the cross, and you look out in the crowd and you see your mother standing there, the mother who gave you life, who's been with you all your life, who's loved for you and who's cared for you, who looked out for you, who kissed your little boo-boo, who made you soup when you were sick, who took good care of you. You look out in the audience and you see her, and she's devastated knowing that her baby is now hanging on the cross. And so as a person who still has responsibility, while Jesus is dying, he stops dying long enough to look out for his responsibility for his mother. And may I pause here parenthetically and ask, what are you doing to check on the things that you're responsible for? I know we got busy lives. I know we got things going on, but those people and things that you are responsible for, what have you done to check on them? Jesus is our example. He stops dying long enough to see his mother in distress. His mother, I'm sure he loved his mother. His mother has had his back. And you do remember it was his mother who was at the wedding at Cana of Galilee, and they needed some water. They ran out of wine. And it was his mother who said, "Do what my son Jesus said." And even at that point, Jesus hadn't begun doing miracles, but his mother is the one who had the faith enough in her son to make them trust him. And brothers and sisters, I can imagine Jesus seeing his mother and feeling more pain because he knew what was getting ready to happen. And so in that moment, he understood because he had a responsibility, there was something that he had to do for his mother. And the best thing that he could do is give the responsibility of caring for his mother to someone that he could trust. Let me help you here. The reason some of us are in some predicaments that we're in now is because we've given responsibility to folk that can't be trusted. I just said something and you ought to shout because you've given responsibility, you've given weight, you've given power to people who didn't deserve it and who couldn't handle it. And because of that, that thing fell apart. That thing didn't last. It didn't exist because you gave the responsibility to the wrong person. When he looked out in that crowd, there were surely other people that he could have given responsibility to, but he had to give it to somebody who he could trust. He gave it to John, his boy, John, his road dog. I would venture to say his favorite disciple. He says, "Yo, John, you know me, I know you, you know my mom. Look out for my mom because I'm getting ready to leave and I can no longer do for her what I've already done." He said, "John, take care of my mother," because he understood at this point Mary was going to be a widow. He knew she was going to be a widow. And then a widow without somebody to look after her would have been devoured by the city, by the community. So he said, "Mom, I know I got to go, but I'm going to leave you in the hands of somebody who can look after you and make sure that you're taken care of." Imagine the weight that transferred from Jesus on the cross to John standing next to the mother. He says, "Woman, behold." That behold simply means to look or to gaze, to set your eyes on this. He says, I can no longer fulfill that, but John is going to fulfill that role. And what I like about John is he says, woman, behold thy son, son, behold thy mother. He says, so at this point, I'm out the picture. Mom, John is your new son. John, Mary is your new mother, and care for her in that way. And what I like about John is because at the end of the verse 27, it says, and from that hour, that disciple took her unto his own home. John didn't ask no questions. John didn't say, well, you know, Jesus, I got some other things going on. Jesus, I got some other responsibilities. John took the responsibility of caring for Jesus' mother as if she was his from that day forward. Thank you, Reverend Cherie, for helping me with this earlier today. Cherie told me that the period between the time that Jesus gave the responsibility to John and the time that Mary died was 11 years. So here it is, for 11 years, John fulfills the responsibility that was given to him by Jesus. Yet and still, there are some people who are calling themselves Christians, saved and sanctified, and can't do what Jesus asked for 11 minutes. Y'all ain't saying nothing. It's tight, but it's right. The full responsibility was given to John, and John took it and held on to it and fulfilled his responsibility until Mary died. Brothers and sisters, what I'm saying to you is there are some responsibilities, there are some requirements, there are some expectations that Jesus has of you and I, and here we've dropped the ball because we've gotten tired, we've gotten weary, we've gotten distressed, and we've let the responsibility fall apart. If our church falls apart, it ain't Jesus' fault. He gave the responsibility to us. If the folk don't turn around and things don't happen the way they should, it ain't Jesus' fault. He gave the responsibility to us. He said, woman, behold thy son. I can't do it no more, Mom, but because I'm going to fulfill my responsibility to you, I'm going to leave you in the hands of somebody who can. My question then becomes, who's your John? Who are you able to entrust? Who are you able to rely on? Who are you able to go to aid you when you can't fulfill something? Brothers and sisters, this word, this third word, really shows his dying concern and compassion and love and responsibility. And so what we can learn from this word is that we've got to make sure that we take care of the things that we're responsible for. Parents, you're responsible for children, take care of children. Husbands, you're responsible for wives, take care of wives. Wives, you're responsible to take care of your husband, take care of your husband. Family, we're responsible for going to jobs and working jobs. Let's be responsible. We're responsible to God and his requirements. So let's be responsible in our giving, in our worship, in our relationship. Let's do our job, because serving the Lord will pay off after a while. Listen, it's quite a task, but even on the cross, he stops dying so that he can take care of us. I'm going to let you listen to the rest of this song, and then I'm going to be right back with the fourth word from the cross. God bless you, Sister Nurse. Thank God for my nurse. Woo. The blood still works. Listen, we're going right on to word number 4. I believe this is 4. Word number 4 can be found in Matthew chapter number 27. Chapter number 27. Matthew number 27. Yeah, and Beverly, the blood still works. It still works. It still works. It still works. Matter of fact, if you on this live right now, just type in the comment box, it still works. 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 Matthew chapter number 27. Matthew number 27. Started reading at verse number 45. Matthew 27 and 45. And it says, now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? We'll go right back to verse number 46. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Just for a few moments here, because I believe I shared portion of this text just a few weeks ago during our worship service, so I won't hold you long on this. The fourth word of our Savior from the cross, he's got a word that says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? The question becomes, have you ever been in a place where your back was against the wall? Have you ever been in a place where it seemed like all of the resources that you had could do you no good? Have you ever been in a place where it seems like as many friends as you had, you couldn't find any of them? Have you ever been in a place where you had money, but your money couldn't buy you peace? You've had resources, but your resources couldn't meet the need. Have you ever been in a dark area, a dark spot in your life? And if you could answer yes to any of those questions, then you can kind of understand where Jesus is right now. He's on the cross. He's endured judgment hall to judgment hall. He's endured the beatings and the whippings and the chains. He's endured being spit on. He's endured nails in his hands and his feet. He's endured all of that stuff. And he's spoken to us and asked for forgiveness for those folks who know not what they do. He's given the reassurance that you'll be with me in paradise. He's taken care of his mother and his boy John. But now here, this fourth word, we see Jesus talking directly to his Father, asking, why have you forsaken me? And the first thing I want us to understand is Matthew chapter number 27, verse 46 makes me feel good because it lets me know that I'm not alone in feeling that sometimes God has forsaken me. Okay, y'all won't say nothing. I'll tell the truth. There's been times in my life where I knew that God was present, but I didn't know where he was. That's good. I knew he was present because he's omnipresent, meaning he's all over at the same time. I knew where he was, but I couldn't get my hands around him. There was something between me and him that separated us. And here, thank you, God. Here in this text, that which separated Jesus from God was the cross. The cross is a symbol or an example of our sin. Yes, God. Sin is the one thing that puts a barrier between us and God. And so here Jesus is hanging on sin. Yes. He's hanging on the symbol of sin, and he's feeling like he's disconnected. Now, the first thing I want you to second thing, I guess, because I just said that. The second thing I want you to understand is he obviously knew that God was present because he was talking to him. He knew he was present because he was talking to him. He said, my God, meaning I'm in communication with you. So I know that you hear me. I know that we got communication here, but because you're not talking back to me, I feel like you've left me alone. And I wonder, is there anybody on the Facebook Live for the church that can holler back at your boy and hit the like button a couple times and say, Pastor, I know I've been saved and sanctified, but there's been times in my life where I felt like I couldn't hear God the way I used to hear him. There was times when I felt like I was praying, but I wasn't getting no response. There were some times when I was fasting, but it didn't seem like it was doing no work. Y'all ain't saying nothing. I don't see no like buttons. I don't see no amens. Y'all ought to say something to a brother, because I know I'm not by myself. There are times when I feel like I am forsaken. Forsaken means the act of being alone. I know for a fact, because I know who God is, and I believe in the power that he has, that he will never leave me. He'll never leave me. He'll never forsake me. But what I do understand is that there are times where he's silent when I want him to be speaking. Yeah, well, he's silent when I want him to speak. And so Jesus here on the cross, oh, I got a towel too? My nerve's sweet. There are times, I'm sorry, I gotta grow up. There are times when I feel like God has left me alone. But what I like about this is, even in this moment, Jesus never stopped talking to God. These are the 7 last sayings of Jesus on the cross. And these sayings ain't really, he wasn't really talking to us. He was really talking to his Father for most of these things. So he's talking to his Father, and the scripture is true, because it says that when darkness was all over the land, don't you know that the darkest hours of your life are usually the hours when it seems like God ain't talking back to you? Am I talking to anybody in here that can be honest and say, God, and say, Pastor, I love God with my whole heart, but there's been seasons where I felt like I could not get to him the way I wanted to get to him? I know, because I felt it the same way. He says, why hast thou forsaken me? But I've come to understand that I only feel forsaken when I concentrate on the wrong thing. I think I said a few weeks ago, the reason most of us endure hardship for as long as we do is because we're interested in the wrong 3-letter word. Why, W-H-Y, makes us question the process. But if we change from why to who, the who helps us focus on who has the solution. Yeah, that's good. So I'm no longer concerned with the why of things, but I concentrate on the who holds all things in his hand. The reality is, yes, we're in trying times right now, and some of us would want to question God as to why we're experiencing corona and why this is going on and why that's going on. I don't necessarily care about the why, because I know who the who is. I believe if we begin to look at the who more than the why, we would be able to walk through some stuff a lot easier with less trials and tribulation, because looking at why causes more anxiety, but looking at who gives peace. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Looking at the why causes tears and weeping, but looking at the who gives me joy in the morning. And so I understand that even in my darkest moments, when God seemingly is absent from me, he's never absent, because the Bible tells me, I believe somewhere around Psalm 46, that he's a very present help, which means he's right here, right now, all the time. Y'all ain't saying nothing. So even in my trials, even in my tribulation, he's right here, right now, all the time. So even on Calvary, God was right there, right then with Jesus at the same moment. But even there, we still have to endure our dark seasons. We still have to endure trials and tribulations. We still have to endure that, because the Bible says that that is the working of our faith and our patience, and it develops us and it helps us. I said this, I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in dark places. There's a lot of development in the photography world that happens in dark places. And so I thank God sometimes for my dark seasons, because my dark season teaches me to rely on the light of the world, Jesus Christ. Hey, listen, that's our 4th word. I would go a little longer, but I feel a push right there, and I don't have the organ like I want, so I'm going to let y'all go. Listen, I love y'all. He says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, why hast thou forsaken me? But please don't get it twisted. He wasn't saying that because God was gone. He was just saying it because he hadn't heard God's voice in a while. I want y'all to know the blood still works. I love y'all. I'll be back shortly with words 5, 6, 7. Peace. I'm sorry, give me back to that bank. Give me back to that shop. Peace. Be back in a few minutes. I love y'all.